Our witnesses answered every question without incident, without problem. They were consistent. They didn't get tripped up once. There was not one inconsistency. So the response to that is, oh, they didn't coach very well. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, I guess. Because if they had been caught up and tripped up and been inconsistent, and their truth was inconsistent, well then they're liars. Or they weren't consistent. But because they were so consistent and they didn't get impeached, they couldn't lay low on them. Oh, they must have been coached.
Or he's telling the truth.
They were not coached. They were consistent because they were telling the truth. You saw that demeanor.
Yeah.
They both told you, Lou and 12, both told you you previously carried a firearm for that 6-month period, being the victim of acts of violence. And Rocky had it on November 6, 2021. And now Rocky's friends knew he had friends. They didn't announce it to the world. Of course, that would be stupid to say, put a social media post out, carry a prop gun. In case you want to attack me, it's really only prop gun. No, Lou said, and 12 said, to his immediate group of friends.
It makes sense.
The prosecution peppered 12 with questions, not a summary of what he told us, the lawyers. As if that summary contained his prior sworn testimony or prior recorded statements, but it didn't. That's why the judge said it was irrelevant what 12 saw in that document.
That's an improper argument.
Read that. That's why the judge said it's irrelevant what 12 saw in that summary document. Irrelevant.
That is the improper argument. It's consistent.
Instead, the summary was simply something that lawyers have to provide as procedural discovery in this case. Look, when I hear this, they're going to try and pretend like we just came up with this prop gun defense. Rocky has been saying that since day one. Here's the testimony of Detective Flores on this issue. Detective Flores was asked, was this something, when he was asked, because he was asked on direct about when did he first find out about the prop gun defense? And he said, there were no deposition in criminal cases with the question before. Then I said, all right. So basically, what you were being asked when we're talking about that, you just found out about this prop gun. What you're being asked are questions related to discovery disclosure in a criminal case, correct? And he said, yes. So Detective Flores, who was very honest, and I think he tried to do a good job here, told you what that was about. See, if you just listen to the direct in this case, it would make it sound like only 2 weeks ago, oh, there was a prop gun. That's been since day one for Rocky. Discovery in a criminal case is what he was being asked about. I mean, you also heard that it was revealed before jury selection, the day, I think, before jury selection, no, sorry, the day before opening statements, that we got a ballistics report from them that was done over a year before. The day before opening statement, that you guys were a panel. Okay. Whatever. And goes crying and screaming. A year after they did it, Detective Flores said, we got it after you guys were back in 2025. Detective Zizzo, Sergeant Zizzo, now former police officer Zizzo, said on the witness stand, we may have missed it. We didn't search the whole street. I said, really? Looking at his report like, when did you say that for the first time? He said, today, this morning, he told him that for the first time. Okay. I'm saying, oh, they just came up with it. This is real life. This is a trial. This is what happens. Sometimes witnesses remember things later, sometimes they don't. But I'm not accusing anyone of perjuring themselves like police officer Zizzo because he just remembered that day 5 years later. You know? I mean, it's sort of odd. 5 years after that, he remembers they may have missed it. But that's okay. Look, more importantly, as Shelby told you, what he testified to here in this courtroom is what he told us previously and what he saw that night. Period. He was consistent, he was credible, unlike Relli, who actually contradicted his own recorded statements, and unlike Relli, who actually contradicted his prior sworn testimony over and over again. He committed perjury, he bragged about committing perjury. And the fact that the prosecution tried to make you believe that his summary was Shelby's actual statement when it wasn't.
Nasty word.
It's a game. It's another example of a game. Here's another one. The prosecution asked Shelby, how he knew it was a prop gun if he never spoke to Rocky about it. That was completely misstating what Shelby said on direct testimony. completely. Probably didn't say he never spoke to Rocky about it. He said the opposite.
Yep.
He said they did speak about it prior to November 6, 2021, in September of 2021 in Harlem at that governor's ball thing, and after he first saw it at the DMV video. He said they spoke about it. When he was ripped apart, you never spoke to Rocky about that, you said. He didn't say that. What other games they play with 12B? You heard it, this one. You heard Detective Flores tell you that before 2 weeks ago, neither he nor any member of law enforcement ever tried to reach out to 12. 2025. This has been happening in 2021. Before 2 weeks ago, before January of 2025, neither he, the lead detective in this case, or any member of law enforcement tried to reach out to 12. And they knew who he was, obviously.
They knew he
But
was
that
there
still
too.
would prevent Mr. Lewin from asking 12 if before those last 2 weeks, didn't you get a message from us? Didn't you get a message from us? No, Mr. Lewin, you didn't get a message from me. Detective Flores already cleared that up pretty clearly. He didn't get a message from you. They knew he didn't contact 12. They knew they didn't try to contact 12 before 2 weeks ago. But he asked him that question. What, give a false impression? That somehow 12 ignored a message? That somehow 12 ignored a message? Oh, I'm sorry.
Disparaging counsel.
Yeah, correct. There cannot be any disparaging, personal attacks.
So it's not a personal attack. It's a question was asked. Okay.
Do not debate with me
Sorry.
without a ruling.
Yep.
The objection sustained. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you heard the testimony, you saw what happened. You figure out what it was all about, but 12 was asked, didn't you get a message from us in the past? When Detective Flores said, no one left him a message, no one tried to reach him. So I don't want to disparage anyone, but you just got to ask yourself, why was that question asked if it didn't happen? Look, you know, what I said, the games, they're a constant theme in this trial. Here's another one. Prosecution asked 12 about photos taken in Rocky's bedroom, which showed Rocky's registered firearms and not a prop gun there. Those photos were taken during a search of Rocky's residence in April of 2022. 5 months after the incident on East Del Mar in November 2021. 5 months later. So the fact that there was a prop gun there means absolutely nothing. You heard there had to be a prop gun way before that. And here's this also. Think about this. And why was there no prop gun in the house? You heard why Rocky, for that 5-6 month period, carried a prop gun on advice of security. Because he'd been subject to episodes of violence and a stalker. His face was slashed in home invasions, okay? But he'd been subject to violence on the street, he didn't have a carry. Okay? So when he wasn't with security, he had this thing to hopefully deter you. At home, he had licensed firearms. Now, because a prop is meant to deter would-be attackers, unless in his bedroom, there aren't would-be attackers anymore. They're in fact attackers. And a prop gun would be useless there, obviously. Also with the registered guns found in Rocky's house, I guess the Flores, if they were legally registered to Rocky, and they objected. They objected to that question.
No, that's an improper argument.
Sustained.
Well, those in fact were registered to Rocky, legal. Others were registered to Lou, legal. Everything in that house was legal and given back to Lou Lemon, who was there at the time of the search. They mocked Lou like he must have made that up. Not just Lou's magazine, the guns were legal too. They were, two of them were Lou's. One of them was Lou's, and two was Rocky's. You heard that from the Detective Force. Legal and registered. Detective Flores made it clear that the weapons found in Rocky's home were legal. So there should have been no dispute over that at all. Search for the truth is what this should be about. I'm trying to win the whole place. It's not a game. It's not a game certainly in his family. It's not a game. In fact, the prosecution did absolutely nothing, ladies and gentlemen, to impeach the testimony of Relli. Nothing. Yeah, you got loud and yelled at them a little. But saying liar, liar, pants on fire is not impeachment. You didn't move them off their story once. They were consistent. They stayed exactly consistent with their story the entire time because the truth is easy to remember. The truth is easy to tell. They were not impeached, not once. The fact of the matter is, by the way, it wasn't lack of trying. I mean, we yelled at, they were raided. I mean, at one point, 12 spoke a dialect from his upbringing, from the streets where he's from. And he said this thing, and I personally think he's one of the nicest guys I've ever seen. He said this thing where he's like, "You feel me? You feel me?" That was just a matter of speed. But Mr. Lewin had to take that. Say, "No, I don't feel you. I don't really mean I feel you. I can't feel you."
It's an improper argument.
Overruled.
No need to mock a witness who came in here and was compliant and respectful. No, they were grilled both 12 weeks, and they were grilled about many, many things, including the financial motives of being here. Again, they don't contradict their testimony. I mean, Mr. Romick this morning spent a lot of time in their testimony, not about their misstatements or their inconsistencies or contradictions or their impeachments, but just repeated their testimony, but in a sarcastic voice, as if that makes it not true. That's not proof. That's definitely not proof beyond reasonable doubt. So anyway, the financial motive that they were both crushed on in their cross-examinations, 12 being Lou. 12 said zero, doing zero from him. For Rocky, nothing. He's got his own career, actually, pretty well. Lou said he makes a portion of his salary for Rocky, and he does, and he loves Rocky. They both love Rocky. So no one's trying to pretend they're here as unbiased, but they love him. But it's an interesting thing, though. They were so concerned about his both of their financial motives. Not once did the prosecution take issue with the fact that their own witness, Relli, was here because of his financial motivation, and only his financial motivation. A $30 million financial motivation. But they're asking Lou Levin, don't you get 20% of your salary from him? Or that poor IT guy who had to fly from Paris to get it. You made $20,000 last year from him, huh?
I'm glad he's pointing this out.
For that.
I'm glad he's pointing
No
this out.
others. By the way, if Relli got his $30 million that he wanted, that he said repeatedly, they'd have no witness in this case, as you now know, because he'd be on an island somewhere relaxing while they were searching for him. Instead, Relli wants to use law enforcement as a money collector, because he didn't care about the police. You heard him say that many times. If he got his money, these guys go pound sand. They'll never find him. He's going to be on an island. And he told you how that process works. That year that day. But talk about extraordinary bias that they just want you to ignore. They don't even mention that one. It can't be, and it shouldn't be. But it's why we're here in this courtroom. It's why we're all here. What else should be ignored? Despite all the prosecution's efforts, despite the blistering questions posed to them, both Twelve and Lou Levin established these incontrovertible facts. They're not controverted, they're not contested. That Rocky was known to carry a weapon by his friends. They didn't controvert that at all. The object in his hands on November 6, 2021 was a weapon. Relli's own actions on November 6, 2021 confirmed that. 12 testified during the first altercation. Relli said something to the effect of, shoot that big ass gun, which explains his later conduct, by the way. Now,
It does.
Relli said he didn't say that. So, now you have to say, who's more credible, more trustworthy, Relli or Relli? That's what he had, the words of the two in that regard, in that one thing. And consistent with his knowledge that it was a fake gun, look what he did after the first altercation, which is impossible to get around for them. The first altercation by the parking garage, where he's pulled a gun, just pulled on a real gun that he doesn't know is a fake gun. He continues to follow the guy who pulls a real gun and according to him, threat to kill him. So think about that for a second when you talk about a reasonable doubt or a doubt based on that. Think about that. That was so odd.
Yeah.
I mean, he said, yeah, the guy pulled out a gun on me. I thought it was a real gun, and he threatened to kill me. So after he walked away, I decided to follow him. I don't follow him, berating him as I'm following him. Almost begging him to shoot me. Well, let's see Detective Flores, but anyway, Detective Flores knows what he thought about that. He testified. He said, that would be an odd thing for Relli to do. His testimony from his trial. Mr. Efron, on December 2021, you asked him why he needed to follow Mr. Mayers if he knew he had a gun, right? He answered yes, Detective Flores. Question, because according to you, you told him that would seem to be an odd thing to do, right? Or odd thing to do, I didn't say right. And Detective Flores said yes. Of course it's an odd thing to do if you know it's a real gun. Not so much an odd thing to do if you think it's a fake gun or a pump gun. And of course, when Relli was questioned about why he would do that, about being an odd thing to do, his answer was, when Detective Flores questioned about it, Relli said, I don't know. That was his answer to Detective Flores early on when he questioned him. When you asked Mr. Efron why did he continue to follow Mr. Mayers after seeing the gun, what he said was, he didn't know why. So, Detective Flores, and he said correct, Detective Flores questioned him about it, and the best Relli could do at that point was say, I don't know, I found it was real gun. Obviously, I don't know was all Relli could say because he knew he couldn't tell the truth. That was a prop gun. He knew that. That alone is reasonable doubt. That is a reasonable doubt. That's it.
Done.
Just name one. Just one.
That's an improper statement of law.
It's not an improper statement. Overruled. It just takes one.
In fact, the lack of evidence further shows that this was a prop. And you heard that the police found absolutely no evidence of a shooting at the scene whatsoever. Officer Zizzo told you that there was no sign of a shooting, there was no blood, no bullet holes, no shell casings, no physical evidence at all. That's from the testimony at this trial from you from Officer Zizzo. Just recap. There was no blood, no bullet holes, no shell casings. No physical evidence of a shooting was recovered at all. No, sir. So that was the guy who was there within 15 minutes. And we heard from the body cam footage from one of the other responding officers, turned out to be Sergeant John Cook, Officer Zizzo said. Sergeant Cook said, there's going to be no evidence for now. We have no victims, no hits, no evidence. That's the sergeant. Body cam footage, that's Officer Zizzo's testimony. Also captured on Sergeant Cook's body cam footage is him saying as of now, or no victims as of now, unless it pops up in the hospital, probably just a warning shot. That's testimony from you all in this trial. Again, so no victims as of now, unless it pops up in the hospital, it's probably just a warning shot, right? That's what he said. Sergeant Zizzo said to us. Well, Sergeant Cook was close. It was actually 2 warning shots from the prop gun. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution cannot prove otherwise beyond a reasonable doubt. They cannot. Beyond a reasonable doubt. Not without Relli being totally believable. Not without Relli being totally believable. And he is not worthy of belief. I don't think I need to spend much time arguing that. That's why, in addition to asking him about November 6th, 2021, which we spent some time doing, we spent so much time questioning him about his credibility. And I'm sorry he was on the witness stand for 5 days. The reason he was on the witness stand 5 days, I was only 2 total days with him. But the reason he was here that long is because he didn't answer questions. Like, the questions had to be asked on cross anyway. 3, 4 times, just had to get involved. That's why he was here so long. Well, because without him, when he questioned his credibility, it's not because I was having fun speaking to him. I wasn't. But when you question his credibility, it's because his credibility is at issue. Because without him and his credible testimony, the prosecution has 0 evidence of a shooting. They even have to prove, they have 0 evidence to prove that it was an operable gun, let alone a shooting. Consider that. What's the prosecution's evidence that the object in Rocky's hand on November 6, 2021 was not a prop gun? What's their evidence? Relli shell casings. Okay, those. Relli's knuckle scrapes. And the videos from parking garage at 1616 Vista Del Mar and 6200 Hollywood Boulevard. But remember what Detective Flores said about those videos. First, he said, there's no evidence from 1616 Vista Del Mar of an actual gun being discharged. I asked him that question, and he said, correct. From that view by itself, no. Well, that's the only view we have of 1616 Vista Del Mar, that video. And they're all there, and it's all blatant. Then, second, I said the only time you could see a gun in any video was the parking garage video. And in that one, you can't tell if it's operable, whether it's an operable gun, a real gun or not, right, Detective Flores? And he was honest. You first cited the fact the gun was displayed, right? Which you already told this jury that the gun that was displayed, the only time you could see a gun in any video was the parking garage video, correct? You already told this jury, by that video, you can't tell if it's operable, right? Correct. So if he can't tell it's operable, how are you supposed to do it? Detective Flores can't tell you it's operable. How are you supposed to tell it's operable? You have to believe Relli's story. All of it. And his credibility. Then, third, what else do they have? Well, sounds, those two sounds. Okay. The gunshot sounds heard at the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video could have been made by some kind of replica firearm, according to Detective Flores. He said, aside from a gun, I asked him, what else could make those sounds? An operable gun, I should say. And then he said, the sound I heard off the camera, I mean a firearm, some kind of replica firearm. He also acknowledged that a replica firearm could also make that sound. A starter pistol could make that sound. That's Detective Flores. It's the case detective. Let that sink in for a moment, folks. Please. The prosecution's case detective told you the sound that they rely on to prove that Rocky had an operable firearm that night, beyond a reasonable doubt, could have been made by a non-operable product. That's it. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's all you need right there. In other words, the videos in and of themselves don't prove that what Rocky had was an operable firearm beyond a reasonable doubt. The case detective could answer that. What else does the prosecution have to rely on? Relli's knuckle scrapes. But even they don't believe that's a gunshot wound. What they said in their opening statement about Relli's knuckle scrapes. Perhaps they were bullet graze, perhaps they were not. Well, perhaps they were not. That's what they want you to accept as proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Perhaps they were not. What else did they say in their opening about those scrapes? Whether the victim or not the victim in this case was actually shot or injured by this will not be something that you will have to decide at the end of this case. They told you in opening statements. Really? Says who? Says who? They told you that because they themselves don't believe those knuckle scrapes.
I've already read the jury instructions to you, and one of those jury instructions lists the elements of what assault with semi-automatic pistol is. Each of those elements have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. What those elements are, that is the law in California as to what an assault with a semi-automatic pistol is.
One of the objections was actually to what you said what the prosecution wants you to do.
Overruled. That part's overruled.
But anyway, regarding the law, this is not about an element of the law, ladies and gentlemen. This is about the credibility of the only witness in this case of the prosecution. That's what that argument was about. About the credibility. I mean, you have to. So whether it was a bullet shot or not, or a scrape from the floor, it does matter. It does matter. Of course they don't want you to consider that. Because first, whether Relli was truthful about his injury goes to his credibility. Credibility, not about the elements of the law. It goes to his credibility, whether he's truthful about the nature of the injuries. And second, whether or not Relli was actually injured by a bullet is something important to consider in deciding whether Rocky had an operable firearm or a prop gun. Those are the two reasons. I just brought that up to you. Those are the two reasons. So I disagree with you. You do have to consider whether he was hit by a bullet or not, because he said he was. first anyway. Because obviously a prop gun can't cause that injury. So was that a gunshot wound? Of course not. Of course that wasn't a gunshot wound. Even Relli couldn't tell you those scrapes were definitely from a bullet. At least at trial, couldn't tell you. Look at his testimony when discussing whether he was grazed by a bullet. I guess whatever is left from the bullet, or the floor, or whatever. I don't know. I can't see. Okay? So, it's either what was left from the bullet, or the floor. Well, I guess it could have been the floor. I don't know why I can't see. It's not what he said in his lawsuit. Lawsuit, he said he was shot. And he wants $30 million because he was shot. Now it's maybe it was the floor. I mean, does the truth mean anything? Does the oath mean anything at all? He really does believe what he said to you at the beginning. I can say whatever I want, do whatever I want. That's that. And that's what they want you to accept as truth beyond a reasonable doubt of truth.